think organizing and decluttering are very different things. A lot of people want their homes and lives to be organized, but you can't do that without decluttering first. And that process can be very overwhelming for people. So my service is I come in and work with people one on one, and just go through whatever space that they have or items that they have, and just help them through that process because it can be very overwhelming.
You're listening to the Behind the Village podcast. Our guest today is Marika Fox from Marika Fox Decluttering.
And then organization inevitably follows. Sometimes we need to rearrange things. Sometimes getting containers is helpful. But the emphasis is and always will be on decluttering. I think we all have too much stuff. It gets in the way. We need to live a little more simply, shop less, use up what we have, and simplify all the items in our house because we have so many items around us and
Hmm.
it's all too much. It's all overwhelming.
Interesting. Yeah. So, like, just to, I want to get it right in my head. So, decluttering is basically getting rid of stuff, like getting, and then organizing is putting it in places that is neat and tidy, I guess. Like, how what
Yeah.
would be your definition? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's a great way to put it. And I don't think it's a too complicated concept, at least not for me, because it's what I eat and breathe and sleep is decluttering and helping people with that. But it's quite simply, picking a category of things. So clothing, for example, or books, gathering it kind of all in one place is really helpful, so you can see how much you have. Okay, if you gather all of your jackets together, you will see that, oh, I've got 4 black jackets. I really only need one. So yeah, the process of decluttering is so important. And then organizing comes second, and that's finding the home for it.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
this is useful.
I know. I didn't know that it was two separate. Like, it makes sense now, but I didn't know it was two separate things, right? Like, and how did you get into this space? Like, how did you get your business kind of started? How did you get here?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I have a background in DSW and PSW, so I like supporting people in their homes or in group homes and their families. But I found that work, I didn't like the hours. The pay was unfortunately terrible. So, anyways, 2015, 2016, I was kind of in a rut in life, in between jobs, not sure what direction to take. And my mom gave me the book, the Marie Kondo book. You might have heard of it, the Life Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Oh, I just happen to have the copy right here. Um, and it was so interesting because I always liked my space clean and organized. And then when I read that book, it's like, oh, I can declutter. This concept of decluttering was very new to me then, and I can let go of all these items around me that I don't want, don't need, are just making me anxious and uncomfortable. Like I was just organizing all this stuff in my life, in my space, but I didn't want half of it. So when I went through that process of decluttering my own stuff, I realized this is very uplifting. This is a game changer. This is eye opening. And if it makes me feel this amazing, I want to help other people do that in their lives. So then I kind of started the business at the time. I called it Room to Breathe. And so just did that, friends and family, just kind of a side hustle, I called it. And then I found myself working for the library in Aurelia and still am there and love it very much. Um, but 2 years ago, realized that I want to take on this business more full time, set my own hours. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. It's been going through my own stuff over the years, and having a kid in that time just changes everything because now I've got all this other stuff, and that's a whole nother ball game. So it's always ongoing and evolving. But yeah, that kind of turning point with that concept of decluttering versus just organizing
Mhm.
was quite eye opening. And I tried her philosophy for a couple of years, Marie Kondo, and I found over the years, I found I was absorbing so many other authors and podcasts and documentaries on the topic, um, and gained a lot of insight and perspective from other theories and methods. So hers was kind of the jumping off point for me, but I found that there's other value in other people's approaches. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it
That's
in
really
a
cool.
not
It's
nutshell.
true though, because you talked about it just being kind of an uplifting process, and it just I internally have like going through that decluttering process even recently, like and having children and all the stuff you accumulate and just getting
Yeah.
rid of everything. You can breathe again. You're like,
Breathe,
oh
exactly.
You
Yeah.
don't realize how much room you actually have
yeah,
until you actually get rid of things, or like you start like going through it, do like we called it spring cleaning basically, and we're still kind of in the middle of it because we started last week. But just getting rid of all this stuff that was just accumulating, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, look at that, like the room is actually much bigger than I thought.
Yeah, that's just it. It accumulates over time. And myself, like I'm constantly like every year I spring clean and every season there's a change of clothes. And with kids, it's, they're outgrowing stuff. Or with myself, I'm in a hobby and then I outgrow that hobby. Like it's a constant, you don't just declutter once and then you're set for life. Hobbies and interests and seasons change. So you're constantly going through it. So yeah, I love that you guys are doing that too. And recognizing that when you do let go of so much, there's space around you. You can see more clearly, you can think more clearly.
mhm.
Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
beautiful process.
I remember when we first saw. Remember the show? I think it was on Netflix, the Marie Kondo,
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Like that was big for us. Like we tried to keep things neat and organized for a while.
it did not
It
last.
did not last. Uh,
Guilty, yeah.
and that's, I think, one of the main things that I was curious about. It's almost happens naturally because we have kids as well. Like that's an extra added thing, but clutter just kind of happens. Is there something that we can do, I guess, to keep things from getting to the uh getting our lives to not get to the point where we should be decluttering? Or is that just a natural cycle where we just,
You
we're going to
accumulate.
accumulate and then declutter and then accumulate and then declutter?
What comes to mind, another approach, something that I find useful, I'll just give you an example that I do. So creating systems, essentially. So designating things in a specific way. Or so I'll give you the example of my daughter's bedroom. In her closet, we have bins on the top shelf. Um, and the first couple of bins are items that are too big. And I've labeled the baskets too big. So anytime I am thrifting or get hand me downs or something, but she's not ready for those clothes, I put them in that basket. They're ready there. And beside that, there's a couple bins, some space for items that are too small. So anytime she's getting dressed and she puts something on and she obviously has a meltdown because it doesn't fit and kids are dramatic, then straight into that bin it goes. So the idea of having a space where things are and having those bins labeled so everyone in the household is a can be held accountable for where things are, where to find them, where things go, I find really helpful. Um, and once that bin that's too small is full, then that's easy. That's right to the thrift store to be donated or pass along to a cousin or something. So yeah,
That's
setting up
That's a really good idea.
systems essentially and
yeah,
designating homes for things.
yeah, that's really
Easier
cool.
said than done. That's quite a process in itself,
Yeah,
but yeah.
and I'm sure because right off the top, I guess for me, for some people, I don't know if it's assumed or if, I don't even know if other people feel this way, but maybe that it's too expensive to be organized in terms of all the bins and maybe a label maker and all the things you need to stay organized or be organized. It's a lot. Like it can add up. So I don't know if
Sure.
you can speak to it being also budget friendly or there being budget friendly options too.
Masking tape and an old shoebox.
There you go.
Mm.
There's your label maker, there's your containment. Certainly there I didn't mean for that to sound sassy. Certainly there's like a certain aesthetic that people might want in their homes, and they can go to the Container Store, or they can go to HomeSense and get all the pretty bins and baskets and expensive label maker and set it up in a certain way that looks like a magazine. Great. If that's your aesthetic, if that's what you want from your home, there's some value in that. But getting back to the point of what I said at the beginning, where decluttering has to happen first before organization happens. So you might find if you're doing the decluttering process, you get rid of 80% of your things and then you don't need all those bins.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So never, ever, ever start with getting the product. Don't start with getting the totes or the bins or the baskets because you need to see what you have, what you actually need, what you like, what serves you, what you value before you put those items in containment and find a space for it in your house. So it can, and to use up items that you already have in your house. So if you're decluttering items, and this happens all the time with clients, they're decluttering items and they get rid of some containers and they want to donate them. And I said, well, let's just set them over here for a minute. And we continue with decluttering. And then when we're at the organization part, I said, oh, this will be helpful here. Now this tool will be helpful for us. So they don't have to go out and buy new products because they already have a ton of stuff in their house.
Yeah.
That's super helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that, right? But again, going from that separation of decluttering to organizing actually makes a lot of sense, right? To first figure out what is it that is worth keeping or not keeping. And maybe you can speak a little bit about your process as to how you understand the systems of decluttering, right? And how you kind of go about it for clients, because I think a lot of people also have struggle with that, right? With the idea of what I consider valuable or what I consider keeping, because maybe one day I will use it. Like maybe in a couple years I will fit that shirt,
Ooh,
or
the
I don't know,
just in
whatever.
case rule.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say, I want to keep that just in case I need it one day.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you're going to use it. Yeah, so the process with people, it's going to be different, depends on the client. It's kind of ever evolving, and it looks a little bit different all the time. But essentially, what I like to do is chat to the person first and figure out their why. Why are they wanting to declutter this space? Do they want to open up a room in their house to make an office, to make a home gym? Do they want more free time to be with their kids? Like, what is the reason behind wanting to declutter? And kind of making a plan within that. So, if money is a factor, so budget, resources, time, how much time they want to spend on the project, those things. So that's kind of all within the plan. Um, and then again, it depends on the room that we're in or how much stuff is involved. But I like to pull everything out into one big open space. So if we were doing a kitchen, for example, that's a pretty common one. There are thousands of items in that kitchen. That's a huge job. So it's helpful to clear off the dining room table, clear off the island. Sometimes I'll bring in a couple of folding tables so we just have more surface space. We'll pull everything out, often not all at once, but categories of things. So with the pantry, like food items, consumables, that could be in the morning, we'll do that. And then in the afternoon, it's all the dishes and utensils and that sort of thing. So pulling everything out so we can see what is in front of us and nothing gets left behind. And then we're going to sort. So we've got donate, trash, recycling. It's helpful to have like a laundry basket or a basket where you put things that need to be elsewhere in the house. I call it just my little label on the bin is elsewhere in the house, because you don't want to be finding things all the time like, oh, this belongs in the bathroom, this belongs in the bedroom, this belongs somewhere else, and distracting yourself and taking time to run to all the other areas of the house. Just put it in the bin, take that bin around with you later and run around and do those deliveries. And then the keep stuff obviously is the other category of that. So then you can break that down a little bit further. So when you're going through each item, you could do the Marie Kondo method if that floats your boat, picking up each item, and her method, if you're not familiar with it. You said you watched the show. Does it spark joy? Is her shtick. So do I love it? Do I need it? Does it give me that little feeling of excitement? Yeah, and I think it's helpful too. Like again, I'm thinking kitchen stuff. Often people don't realize how much stuff they have within the same category. So serving spoons, someone might have. I had a client a couple months ago. They had like 20 serving spoons. Like, okay, well, do you have 20 bowls of potato salad that you're serving all at once? Because if you do, let's keep it. Like that works for you and that makes sense. But they didn't realize how many had accumulated. So putting all the like items together, all the serving spoons together, all the blenders. Okay, you've got 3 blenders of different sizes. Which ones do you use? Putting all the like things together in their category. And then just doing the declutter that way, I find it's pretty smooth sailing. And then again, the last step of that is organizing, putting things away. Does there need to be a lazy Susan in that cupboard that's going to help access that item easier? That kind of final piece of the pie there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
my question too is, it's that makes a lot of sense in terms of process, but I know, and sometimes I can be this way, and our daughter is very much this way, but there's a nostalgia and a connection to everything. And sometimes it's really difficult to decide to let something go. Like how would you help help with that?
Help. Yeah, I never pressure people to let go of something if they're not ready to. The goal is never to have a huge donation pile and keep only a couple of items. Like everyone's going to be different. If you're connected to items, if you're connected to that plate or a mug and it makes you happy and that there's some value there, then keep it. I'm not one to say you need to have X number of this or that. Um, Sometimes it's helpful to repurpose something in a different way. So I think of mugs for this one because a lot of people have a lot of coffee mugs or tea mugs. And I don't know why, but it's just a comforting thing. They're pretty. They warm you up. Like it's just a nice thing that a lot of people have a lot of. Um, so I've got mugs all around my house of ones that don't fit in my mug cupboard, but I still like. They're sentimental to me. I got them from different parts of my life, like in different years of my life. They're sentimental, as you're speaking to, and I just repurpose them in different ways. So one's holding pens in my office. One tiny one is in my shower, holding the soap and the nail scrub and a razor. Like so, keeping those items, but maybe it doesn't belong where you might think it belongs. Maybe it needs to be repurposed and then it adds value elsewhere in your home and it's being used and appreciated somewhere else.
That's a great point too. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of my mug that I hang on to that I never use.
Well, we buy mugs as well because I like the pattern of it. Like you see it and it's like a cool saying or it's something, it's a cute, image or whatever. So you get it, but you have no idea what to do with it. Like we have one that is like huge and I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds like an impulse purchase.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that on another podcast.
Yes.
Impulse buys, shopping.
I know.
Yeah, but it kind of starts with that, right? Like the reason why you
100%.
end up with so much stuff is because I don't know, you don't think about it or you start accumulating stuff. And maybe that's something that we can, talk a little bit about is like maybe the reason why people accumulate stuff, or it's just like, I don't know, like it's
I
a natural,
Yeah, I think it happens for a whole host of reasons.
yeah,
Because again, with kids, like we've mentioned, it's so easy to just between the clothes that they grow out of so quickly and the
Yeah.
clothes hand-me-downs, which we have boxes and boxes of in our basement for both of our kids in different stages that we're hanging on to, that they'll grow into one day. So there's that. And then there's the clothes they've grown out of. And then there's like Christmas decorations. And then there's, different holidays. And then
that's
you
true.
just end up like, we didn't use half of our Christmas decorations last year. It's like, why do I still have them?
Well, we have so many that we have to figure out where they are, like where they get kind of all over the place, and then you're trying to figure out where they all go, right? And because of all the
Exactly.
holidays and all the things, like yeah, it ends up accumulating, right?
Yeah, and I think we go through different phases of life too. And, some of the Christmas decorations that you might have put out 10 years ago are not getting put out anymore because you're just in a different phase of life. And with kids, they want certain items out, or maybe they're making things. So those items are taking, a special place in your home. So I think it's healthy to always recognize that people are meant to grow and change and evolve and interests change. Um, and styles change and preferences. So yeah, things that we have held on to in the past might not be serving us anymore. And then sometimes that, thinking about that, it makes it easier to let go of things. Like just because you've had something for 20 years, it doesn't mean it's serving you now. So that might be more easier to help let go of things.
Mhm.
Yeah. We don't realize it as well that, as you said, like over the years, people change and our tastes change or like what we like or what we need to have or keep or use changes. But you don't realize just how much of an effect cluttering, just having stuff in your house actually has an effect because until you actually get rid of them. And like we talked about in the beginning, it's like, like it feels like an uplifting, like it feels much better, but you don't realize how much of an effect having, I guess, a lot of stuff, right? And actually has an effect on you mentally, right?
I've always
Absolutely.
said to you, like, the state of our house is pretty much my mental state. Like, when it's just pure chaos and there's stuff everywhere, that's where I'm at.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. And same and you could easily look up 100 studies right now on the connection between a cluttered house and anxiety and stress and loss of sleep. And yeah, there's definitely a correlation there. And I'm the same way too. Like when my house is chaotic, like I feel stressed out, I can't focus. I had to tidy this space that I was in right now so I could focus on this podcast because otherwise I'll be so distracted and just not in a good headspace. So yeah, I get that. And kids don't really help that situation, do they? They kind of just like
They do
barge
not.
in and throw their muddy boots everywhere. But I think it's important to recognize that this is the chapter, you and I are speaking, we've got young kids, like this is the chapter of life that we're in, and it's meant to be messy and
Mhm.
it's meant to be a little chaotic. And we can set up some systems in place in our house to make things a little smoother and do the 10-minute tidy at the end of the day and help ourselves out a little bit that way. But just recognize, like, just giving ourselves some grace, recognizing that this is just the phase of life that we're in, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's huge too, because I think it's easy to get wrapped up as well if you tend to lean toward kind of that anxious state sometimes is with young kids and things aren't happening the way you were hoping they were going to happen, or things aren't where they need to be, and just to kind of to again, that grace to there'll be a day, and I say it sometimes too, like where it won't be like this, and we're going to think back
Exactly.
and be like, you know what, I kind of miss all the sand that was all over the floor all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
so
second that we
true.
clean and vacuum, sand comes right back.
They just like empty their boot and pour out the sand castle
Yeah,
onto your floor. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah, but it's a
it won't
beautiful
feel
thing, and that's what childhood is supposed to be. It's supposed to be messy, and we just have to embrace it because we can't stop it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I think too, um, figuring out how we want to spend our time. Like I don't like cleaning anymore. Cleaning to me is annoying, is a chore. I like things to be clean and organized and put away, but the act of doing it really is starting to irritate me because with a kid, it's constant and I can never seem to stay on top of it. So I just don't want to be spending my weekends and evenings and on all that time cleaning and organizing. But I think it is important to devote some of that time to get systems in place, as I said, and declutter. And the less stuff you have, the easier it is to put stuff away. So I think that's where decluttering comes in beautifully because, yeah, if you have less to manage, then it's just the tidy up just makes it that much easier and smoother.
I think that's really important for parents in particular because I feel like there's a lot of pressure to kind of always have your home a certain way. And as we've been talking about, it's not necessarily the reality.
Mhm.
And I very much identify with I hate cleaning. I do it because it has to get done. But like, I don't want to spend my time cleaning. I don't want my whole weekend to be cleaning the house. I'd rather be outside. Like I'd rather be
Exactly.
doing something fun. I don't want
Yeah.
to clean.
And we want our kids to see that within us too. Like we want to be setting a good example and we want them to see that chores have to be done and that's an important part of life too. But I want if my daughter asks me to go to the park on the weekend and jump on the trampoline with her and all these fun things, like I don't want to say, no, I gotta clean the house like a crazy person. Like I just want to be able to drop everything and experience life with her. Um so and to your point of like not liking to clean, I think there's lots of things in life that if we're able to do so financially, there's things that you can hire out and have people do. So I know a lot of people that hire to have a cleaner come in and do that because they're working full time. They want to prioritize their family on the weekends, and if you've got the means to hire someone to do that job, or to come in and do your laundry, I know some people do that, or to hire a declutterer and help just make the process a little bit faster and smoother. Like what a great like why not just ask for help, why not use these resources that are available to us,
Mhm.
so we can free up our time for the important things.
Yeah. And sorry, I was going to say, I think that the decluttering is that first step because in order to have, for example, someone come in and help clean, it needs to be tidy for them to be able to help clean, like
Yeah,
otherwise they spend the entire time putting things in piles because they don't know where anything goes necessarily.
Well, that's
exactly.
one of the things that you like. I don't know if all services do this, but it's something that I have seen where they ask that things be at least somewhat put away, right, so that they can come in and they can clean, and they actually have the space to clean properly, right? So you have to pre-clean in order for them to come in and clean. Right?
Exactly. And half the time, I think what happens is people just like, here's their island. They take their arm, they do a big swoop, and everything goes into the junk drawer. And then you can call me and I'll help sort out that junk drawer. But there, we hide stuff behind doors and in closets and in cupboards and stuff. So the cleaner, as you're saying, can come in and their job is easier. But just how much simpler would it be and how much more beautiful would it be if we just had less stuff to deal with in
Mhm.
the first place? But stuff is always, we don't think about it, but the stuff that just comes into our house daily, the junk mail, the stuff from school, the rocks and sticks that kids bring in, the items
Yep.
that we shop for, like our, new clothes or the latest gadget, like things are always coming in through our door. And how often do we stop and think, okay, well, what's leaving? If we're bringing all this in all the time, stuff has to
That's a good
leave, or
idea.
this is just going to keep building all the time.
It's something that we just talked about, and in order to keep things a little bit cleaner, is like, what if it's like a one for one, where whenever something new comes in, something else needs to leave, right?
Yes, the one in, one
Like
out
that.
rule.
Yeah, like we did we kind of talked about doing that with our daughter, but like that makes a lot of sense, just to put it overall, like as a system, right?
Yeah.
Because it's true, like you buy things not knowing or not realizing that maybe you have an old one, or you're buying it because your shoes are old or because your things are old, you want to buy a new one, which is great, but then you never actually get rid of the old stuff that you had.
Yeah.
All the time, yeah, and that's where I see in clients' homes, in the back of their closet, they've got the broken whatever it is, cell phone or device or ratty old shoes, and they've replaced those items, but they haven't gotten rid of that item, and that's causing the anxiety, the stress, the clutter in their lives. So yeah, definitely try to be mindful of the stuff that you bring in. Okay, stuff needs to leave. And what I find very helpful for this, like it's easy to talk about, but in reality, we've got busy lives. That's just, we're not always going to devote time to decluttering. But if what I recommend to people, if you have a box or a bin that you can put somewhere and find a good spot for it, for me, it's inside the closet of my front door and it's labeled donate. And anytime that I come across something that I don't use, don't like, I've outgrown, whatever it is, I just put it straight into that donate bin. Similar to the bins that I was talking about in my daughter's closet of clothes that are too small. But I have this thrift store box that's by my front door. And when it's full, I just deal with it. So I don't have to think about, like, I'm just always able to put something in there if need be. It's not something I have to like spend days on all the time. It's so random, and yeah, that's a really helpful thing. So if you've got a designated box or area that you can do that. But the trick is, if you have other people in your household who might then pull from that box and say, "Oh no, I need this. Oh, keep it just in case." You have to hide the box a little bit better.
Yeah. Hide the box. Got
Put
it.
a lock on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or this is your donate box and this is your donate box,
Yeah.
however you need to work it. But yeah,
No,
people
that's a
will
great
pull
idea.
stuff. My daughter pulls stuff from there. I'm like, "Oh, well, I thought you
Yeah.
were done with that, but okay."
I know. I do that. We're just keeping it in the basement, and then I wait for an extended period of time and then quietly remove it afterwards.
Sneaky.
And then it's things that, like, nobody ever uses or touches or, or even cares
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. And it's so important too. This just brings up a point in my mind of if you do live with other people, to check in with them before you donate other people's stuff. So I'll go to a client's home and we're working through her clothes closet, and then there's his section or her section. And I don't want to touch it. And the person will say, "Oh, he never wears this. They never wear this. I don't like, we can get rid of." Nope, that's theirs. I'm not going to touch that. Respectfully, they have to deal with their own stuff. So just being mindful that we need to deal with our own stuff first before we start to throw away everyone else's stuff. But kids are tricky because, and I'm just learning this. Every day I'm learning something about being a parent. My daughter just turned 5, but in the first couple of years of her life, she can't articulate like nothing is really super special to her. But now she can. So this past Christmas, I said, "Oh, Christmas is coming up. Here's a box. Are there some toys that we can, let go of? Because you're going to get some new toys." So she's part of that process now. But for the first couple of years, I was able to make those decisions. But yeah, just not, I guess my point of like not speaking for other people and getting rid of their
Mhm.
stuff without asking.
Yeah. But that's also a smart advice, because it happens, like, there are specific time periods, I guess you could call it, that it's easy to accumulate a lot of stuff. One of them being Christmas,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Mhm.
or birthdays or something like that, right? Where it's easy to accumulate a lot of things because there's a lot of gifts, there's a lot of, whatever, right? And to have a system, or to have something in place similar, like what you said, is like, okay, we know that this is happening, right? What can we make? How do we make that space so that new things can enter, as opposed to just having more things enter, and then you have pile on top of pile, for
Mhm. Yeah. Or
things.
even for people that I'm not a huge shopper myself, but some people love to shop, and it's
Mhm.
making sure that you're creating that space also, right? So,
Yeah.
Yes, and for some people, gift giving is their love language. You don't have to hold on to something just because it was a gift, and that rubs people the wrong way a lot of time. But it's yours now. You get to choose what you do with it. Maybe you can regift it to someone who you know will use it. Maybe you can donate it to a certain organization or cause that you know will get value from it. But yeah, gifts are tricky.
it is tricky. That is a tricky one because
That's true.
yeah.
Because you want to feel like there's almost like an obligation, like, this person gifted me something, it's special, right? Like, it has that sentimental value, but at the same time, if you're not using it, it's one of those things, like, how do you keep that sentimental value without actually having the physical object in place, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't want to detract from the fact that it was a friend that gave this to you, right? But you don't need it, you don't use it,
You
right?
don't need it,
That you have.
and if you have something in your house that you don't need or love or like, and it's causing that stress for you, regardless of who gave it to you and how important they are, how special they are to your life, get that item out of your house because that's your space and you need to take control of that space. And if they're still in your life, well, go grab coffee with them or go for a walk with them. Spend time with them that way and get value from that person in a different way than holding on to that item that isn't serving you. Or a lot of the time, it's someone that has passed on, like grandparent or a close friend, and maybe they've passed on, but you've got an item from them. You can always take a picture of that item, so you have it to reflect on. Do you have other items in your house that is from that person? Um, with my grandparents, they've all passed on, and I just have a few items from them, and those items are really special to me. But I never felt obligated to take everything from their house when we were going through that process. It's just a few items, like one or two items, remind me of them, and that's enough. And it doesn't have to have like a whole household of clutter. Everything is watered down and with so much stuff. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling on now, but
No, it's good. I like that too, and it's the idea of having something for, those people that have passed on and that you wanna remain connected to have maybe something representative that just keeps you connected in that way,
Yeah.
as opposed to just
But there's value, right? So it's worth keeping because you find the value in it. It's for the things that you don't find the value
yeah.
in, right? That is not worth kind of having or keeping, right? And accumulating and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
absolutely. And getting back to a point of what we were talking about earlier is, are you able to reuse the item or repurpose it in some different way? So you can get creative with items too. So another item I have from my grandparents is a pottery, like where you'd put wine in, like to
Mm,
chill wine.
yeah.
And I don't drink alcohol, so I've got that now on my counter with utensils in it in the kitchen.
Mm.
I mean, maybe it was for that originally, but to me, it was always in there. They always used it for like serving wine. Um, so yeah, I've got an item. It's special, but I'm able to repurpose it in a way that works for me, and I see it on the counter and I think of them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
having a few
Absolutely.
sentimental items like that's a beautiful thing. I don't think we should have stark white rooms. This room is white, but the rest of
This
my
one's
house
it's
looks
a
very normal. Yeah, this is my office. This is a different space for me. Yeah.
So talk to me about your services, I guess, in as I'm thinking about it, is like, when should people be contacting you in that sense?
Yeah, it's gonna be different for everyone, and what I find really interesting with the business, I thought it would be a lot more people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, really trying to downsize, really kind of thinking about not wanting to deal with or not wanting their kids or families to deal with all their stuff, so hiring someone to come in and support them through that. But I'm finding a lot of my clients are in their 30s with young kids. Um, so yeah, it depends what people's goals are, what they have time and space for in their life at the moment. But
Like, should be
cost
should we
checking.
be like, is it easier like through spring cleaning? Like, we're thinking of doing spring cleaning. Let's bring, Marika over, right? Is that, or it should be like whenever we have too much stuff? Like, when should I decide? Okay, it is now time that I seek help.
The great question, when you feel it's at a point where you can't handle it, or you really value your time and you just want the process done faster, I think thinking about those two things could be really helpful. Spring cleaning is a great time to do it. I find January is just a really good reset for the year. You've just had December. There's just so much going on. There's so much stuff out. There's so much food. There's so much gatherings. So January is a fantastic time to just do that reset and start fresh. Yeah, as we say in springtime is good. But yeah, it depends if you've got, time off in the summer, that's a great time to do it. If you are doing your garage or shed, well, you're not going to do that in February. Think about the time of year that you want to appropriately tackle a space, and I'd be there to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find you? Like your website, social media?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find me there, Marika Fox Decluttering, and I've got a website as well, marikafoxdecluttering.ca. Um, and if I could speak to a fundraiser event that I've got coming up as well, where you can find me in person if you want to connect. So I've done a few fundraisers over the past couple of years for local charities. So we've got one coming up. It's going to be held at Manticore Books downtown on Friday, May 30th and Saturday, May 31st. Details are on my socials. So I'm asking for donations of books, used books, all ages and genres, which we will then resell for a couple dollars, very affordable. And all the money that we will raise will be donated to Speaking of Wildlife. So they're a great organization, do a lot of great animal support in the community and in Ontario. So you can
Yeah,
find
we
me
had
there
them.
at
We had
that
them on the
event.
podcast
Yeah,
like a couple
weeks
couple of
ago.
weeks
Saw
ago.
that. Fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So if you want to
currently.
come chat to me in person, you can, come say hi at Manticore on the 30th and 31st.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that
That's
sounds
great.
great.
Yeah.
We probably have books that we can donate or
Oh,
something.
absolutely.
Yeah,
There's so many
Yeah,
books.
declutter those books.
I have bins of books that
yeah.
I just went through.
Bins.
Bins and bins of books.
You can never have too many books.
Yeah, this is
That's
true.
a hard one for people. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, that kind of takes me from all the questions that I had. Is there anything that you had?
No, I think that was really useful information
I know
that I'm
it
going to
was.
start applying now.
I know. Yeah. And is there anything that we might have missed that you think we need to talk about potentially?
Um, Missed, no, but I would like to just circle back and reiterate the point that we are all in different stages of life. We are all going through this journey in a different way, with different people and different life situations. So decluttering and organizing is going to look different for everybody, and we should never compare ourselves to what other people are doing or not doing. And just give yourself some grace for where you're at in life. And if you need support for anything, whether it's decluttering or cleaning or whatever, reach out to someone who can help you with those services, because yeah, we can't do it all. We can't do it all alone, and we're not meant to. And so yeah, seek the support needed, and just give yourself some grace.
Yeah, and that actually it reminds me of what you were talking about. Like I actually feel better when you were saying that a lot of your clients are in their 30s or with young kids and stuff like that, because I always feel like do we just not have our life together? Like why is it everything so like like it's is it things get messy and stuff like that, and I'm always just kind of like you know is this how it is, or is there other we're not doing something right? But it just the fact that other people are like it's a common thing, right, in that sense, and they're seeking help, and because there's an expert, because there is this kind of situation and it's a normal thing, right? It just makes me feel like, I don't know, it just makes me feel better, like yeah, we can actually have,
One day.
one day
One
we'll
day.
bring you in, right? We'll do the whole thing because
Yeah, no, for sure. Life is messy, and this is the stage we're at, and there's no stopping that. There's no stopping those kids in their muddy boots running through the house. So let's just prioritize the things that are important. And if we have, less stuff that we have to tidy up at the end of the day, that just makes it so much easier.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for being part of our podcast, and hope to see you on the 30th, right? On May 30th.
At Manticore. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the entire episode. All the links and info you heard in this conversation will be featured in the show notes on our website, villagermagazine.ca/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to our channels like YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from so you never miss an episode. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.